Hi guys, welcome to Pixel Affair. It's Kobe here, and in today's video we are going to talk about the track modifier tag, which was introduced in Cinema 4D R25, and this is part of my video series on Cinema 4D tags. So what the track modifier basically does is that, just like its name says, it modifies the animation track of your object. So you can see in here I have this pin object here, and if I hit play, you can see it moves up and comes down and rotates. So basically we've set keyframe for it to move up and come down, and it rotates, right? And it ends at frame 20. Now for us to add the track modifier to it, you can right click, come to animation tags, and you can see in here we have our track modifier. Or we can come into our tags, animation tags, and you can apply our tag modifier, a track modifier as mean. So I'll apply the track modifier. And now if you come into attribute manager with the track modifier selected, you come to the attribute manager, you can see the mode is set to spring. There are other modes to posterization, noise, and smooth, which we'll speak about. But for now, let's talk about the spring. So the spring, basically what it does is that it adds secondary animation to your object, and it begins to give it a bit of spring feel, like as if there's a bit of spring in it, just like its name says, or bounciness in it. So if I go back and hit play, you can see nothing happens. That's because we've not actually added any strength to it. So if I increase the strength to like say 50%, like 51%, and hit play, you can see now it's bouncing, right? It's giving us that springy feel, right? We can also increase the stiffness. So the stiffness basically acts as if how the bounciness affects it, how stiff it is. I mean, it's very self-explanatory. So if I increase it, and now if I hit play, can see it's not affecting it as much. It's very stiff. That's basically what the stiffness also does. Again, we have the drag in here, and with the drag it also gives it a little bit of gives it some sort of friction, makes it looks as if it's moving through some force which is like repelling or pushing it back or something of that sort. So if I increase the drag and now hit play, and see the way it settles. Now I see if it's moving through some force or some friction of something of that sort, right? So that's basically what those two objects does with the spring, and it's very simple and self-explanatory. So now let's go to the next mode. So with that, I'll duplicate this pin. I'll actually delete it so we start afresh for us to see, and I'll hide this one. So now we have this particular pin which also have the same animation, but this time I've actually deleted the track modifier we added earlier, so we can apply it again. So I'll right click and I'll come to animation tag, track modifier, and we change the mode from spring to posterization. The posterization mode basically gives it animation feel like a stop motion movement, right? So instead of it moving smoothly and uniformly, it starts making it moving like with a bit of jumpy effect. So we move from one frame to the next like in a linear way. So that's basically what the posterization mode does. But with that, you can actually control the frame rate and the frame steps. So you can actually make it feel a bit more like a stop motion animation, right? So let's explain what these options does here. So with the offset option, what it basically does is that it offsets your animation. So now if I hit play, you can see my animation starts right from frame 0, but we can tell it not to start from frame 0. We can offset it to like say frame 30, and if I hit play, you can see it waits till frame 30 before it starts playing. So that's what basically the offset does. I mean, we will set it back to 0. Now with the time factor, what the time factor does is that it doubles the speed of your animation, or you can cut it to half, or any way you want it. So you can see if I hit play, the animation ends at frame 20, right? But with the time factor, if I increase it to like say 100%, now it means it doubles my animation speed. It's not the speed, I mean, but it doubles the length of my animation. So if I hit play, you can see now it ends at frame 40 instead of 20, right? Now if I set it to minus 50%, it cuts my my animation time to half. So if I hit play, you can see it goes and ends at frame 10 basically. So that's what the time factor also does. We can set it back to 0 and everything will go back to the default state. right? The next is the strength. So the strength is what controls the frame step here. So with the frame step, it's set to 1, so we will not feel what's actually happening in here. So if we increase it to like say 3, and now if we hit play, you can see the way our animation is playing. It's playing as if there's a bit of like stop motion. So from frame 1, from 0, 1, 2, it will not move. Now from 3, then it start moving. 3 to 5, it will not move. Then 6. So basically it gives it that jumpy feel, like a stop motion. So that's what the frame steps also does, and it's very, very interesting and very, very nice way. So you can actually use it to do something like of a stop motion kind of animation. So if I set it to like say 4, right, see, basically, so that's what basically the posterization mode and the frame step also does. Now the next mode is the noise mode. So with that, I'll go ahead and duplicate this pin again, then I'll hide this one, and then I'll come select the track modifier tag, and I'll change it from posterization to noise. So if I hit play, you can see everything is back to the default and nothing is happening. What the noise mode basically does is that it makes your animation sort of like imperfect basically. So you see, if I hit play, it goes back and drops, you know, smoothly. This is how the animation is. But if I should increase the strength, now we wouldn't talk about the offset and the time factor, because it is the same thing that was like explained in the posterization mode. Now if I increase the strength like say 10, you can see our animation, you know, has changed. So I hit play, you see it doesn't land at the tip again, and the rotation too is not perfect. So basically that's what it does. It doesn't make your animation perfect like the way it's supposed to be. It adds that a little bit of some like deviation to your animation, right? So that's basically what the noise mode does. Now if I twirl down the strength, you can see we have position. So now we can actually say it shouldn't affect position, but it should affect just the rotation, or maybe we can limit the position a little bit, you know, depending on how we want it. Or if you say you don't want it to affect the rotation, maybe it's just scale. In this case I don't have scale, so it wouldn't even matter. But we can just say okay, it should affect only position and no rotation. So what basically the noise mode does is that it adds like imperfection. It makes your animation imperfect, add a little bit of deviation to your animation so that it wouldn't land the way it's supposed to, or with anything, right? So that's what the strength basically affects the position, scale, and rotation down here. It's like a multiplier for these ones, so you can use it to blend it the way you want it. All right, down, if I close it, let me actually come here. If I come down here, you can see we have speed, and with the speed it gives your animation a little bit of movement, sort of back and forth oscillating kind of movement, you know, between the values that you have set in here. So let me increase the strength a little bit more, and if I increase the speed say to 20, if I hit play, you can see, let's go back, animation please, and still there's that movement going back and forth, but it's still like a bit of random. You can see now it goes a bit more, so there's still the noise in there and it going back and forth just like that. So that's what the speed mode also does. So you can actually increase it and it'll be very, very quick and jittery and stuff like that, but it's very, very random. Now you can use the seed to also change the kind of the way the noise affects your the animation that you have, the imperfection that you have. So you can use different seeds. So basically that's what the speed also does, and the seed also gives you variations in it. So the next mode is the smooth mode, and with that one I'm going to use a different animation. So still I have the pin object here, so I'll go ahead and add a quick animation to it. So with the pin object selected, I come to its position, I'll set a keyframe here, and I'll come to frame 10, and I'll increase it, move it upwards somewhere here, and set another keyframe, frame 20, and I'll bring it back to 0. And set a keyframe. I don't want it to move in other position. So yeah, so now if I hit play, you can see it goes up and down, right? So I'll actually go to the dope sheet. So I click on this button here and it'll bring up our dope sheet. I'll click on this one to reveal our F curve mode. And if I open this one, you can see you have the position Y, and you can see the curve that you have, right? I don't want it curve, I want it to be linear, so I'll make sure all of it is selected, and I'll just click on this one and it will set it to linear. So now if I hit play, you can see it goes up and down. It's very rigid, right? That's basically what we want, so that you can see the effect of the next mode. Now I'll come here and I'll add, right click, animation tags, and I'll add my track modifier and come to the attribute manager, the mode. I'll set it to the smooth mode, and now if I hit play, you can see what's happening. It's smoothing our animation. This might not be obvious, so I'll actually duplicate it and I'll move this one on the side, right? So I'll delete the first one, the first track modifier, so that you have two different objects. So you can see this is the one that we've added the track modifier to. So let me actually change the color to something that will make it different. So you can see this is the one that we've added the track modifier to, and this is the one, the one with just the linear animation. If you hit play, you can see one is a bit smoother and one is very hard. You can see the first one goes in there and it hits the edge, but this one is a bit smooth out. So if I select the track modifier, come to the attribute manager, you can see with the time offset and the time factor, it's the same as the posterization one that I explained. Now the next is the strength. So the strength is basically smoothing the edge of our animation, right? So it's, if I come to the dope sheet again and take Y, let me actually change the F curve. So you see it's very sharp at the edge, but what it's doing is that it's giving it that curve, and that's based on the curve that we have here, the mask that we have here. So if I increase the strength, you can see it's even smoothing it more. Like, let me actually increase it a little bit more so that we can see the effect. So if I hit play, you can see it's very smooth, right? And that's based on the curve here. Let me set it back to 100%. And now if I take the curve, change it a little bit, like do our adjustments and stuff to it, you can see the animation will be even more smoother, you know. So basically that's what the smooth does. It smooths your animation when you have like a very hard edge animation, linear like animation, especially when you import something from other projects and stuff. Some of them sometimes with a lot of keyframe, it's very linear and it's very rigid and hard edge, but you can use the track modifier to add a little bit of smoothing to it, so the animation moves a bit smoother. So that's basically what the smooth mode also does, right? And it's very self-explanatory in here. So in this scene, I have these three spheres, which are children of this null object, right? And if I hit play, you can see it moves up and down. What's going on is that all the sphere has been animated, so it just go up and comes down, right? So if I right click on the null and come to animation tags and I add my track modifier, right, and come to the spring mode, increase it, you can see if I hit play, nothing happens, right? But the next tab is called the inclusion tab. If I go there, you can see in there we have hierarchy. So if I enable hierarchy and hit play, you can see now the spring mode is affecting the spheres that are under the null object. So that's basically what the inclusion tab, the hierarchy, means, right? Now down here you can see we have mode. So it says exclude. We can also set it to include. And now if you hit play, it will not affect any of them because none of them has been included. You can also set it to exclude, and now we can exclude the one we want. So if I put in, let's say select the sphere, which is the middle one, if I put it in and now hit play and let it go back, and see the middle one doesn't have the spring effect. If I change it from exclude to include, then the middle one will have the effect and the rest wouldn't have. So basically that's what these ones does. The next is the cache. So with the cache, it applies to only the spring and I think the smooth, right? The noise one doesn't have cache, and the posterization mode also doesn't have cache. So let me actually go back to the spring. And the cache, basically, because this one is a post, it does the calculation after your animation. It's a bit of like, it does a bit of calculation in there. So if you are scrubbing through the timeline, you might not get the effect the way sometimes you want it. So it will be best if you want to use the playhead to be moving back and forth, stuff like that, to get the accurate animation. So in that case, you might want to cache it, and in here, if you want to cache it, you have to come in here and make sure you bake it so that everything will be stored. All right, and now if you scrub through, everything should give you the accurate representation of the animation. So basically, that's all about the track modifier tag. And I hope this one was useful, and it can be used in a lot of scenarios. This was quick examples to show you how it works and everything. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.